genuine question, guys. Why is it always the aunties? Why? Not me, because I'm your auntie, but my aunties. Why is it always the aunties? The Somali aunties, the Jamaican aunties, the Ghanaian aunties, the Nigerian aunties, just the aunties, the black aunties, yeah, the aunties that are of colour. Why is it always the aunties that are cleaning, public places, picking up the newspapers, doing all of these jobs, handing us tissue paper in the toilets? Please, can someone help me?
Now that is a great question. Those are the kind of questions we should be asking. Those are the kind of questions we should be asking in today's society. I mean, look, it's 2026, okay? Now we've had communities come and gone. For example, the Polish community came, when was it, 2000? And now we've seen them establish themselves. And in many cases, many have left and gone back or moved to other parts of Europe. So we've seen people come and we've seen people leave. Similarly with the Romanians, okay? But hold on, I digress. Why is it like Shells, and shout out to Shells again, big shout out to Shells, an intelligent question, why is it that all this societal change, all these legal initiatives, all this so-called DEI that people keep going on about, why is it that in this situation, using this example, that there's always aunties, yeah, handing out the papers, like she rightly said, handing out the papers in toilets, cleaning the trains, cleaning tube station, waiting rooms, cleaning schools. They're the ones waiting hand on foot, doing all the cleaning and wiping and so forth, yeah. Why is it always the Jamaican aunties, the African aunties, the aunties that were here, that reside, well, have British residency, and also those that come from overseas, yeah? What is it we're missing here? Why haven't they permeated in other forms of like work, I guess, I don't, well, let me say this regarding this. In some cases, it's not a poverty thing or an inequality thing, maybe in some unique circumstances. For example, I know a very, 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 very affluent family, okay? No disrespect, but no wit, working class family, let alone middle class family, can live like that. Where they live, where they reside, on a different level, okay? And the mother was a cleaner, as it was, okay? The father was high up there, not going to go into that. But the mother worked as a cleaner. But that's a unique circumstance. And all the children turned out to be high flyers. They were in fact academic geniuses. Another conversation, I went to school with them. But hey, so I'm going to put that aside, okay? I'm going to say another example, and my best example. I always refer to this, okay? Myself and one of my good wit friends, you know what wit means? We're on TikTok. He used to back in the day when he was young, he used to deliver papers in his car, you know what I mean? Drive from east to south. I'd always make that journey, drive through East London, cross the water, go into south, and he'd do his bit, We're best friends and still are. And we used to drive back, and we always see, like Shells rightly said, aunties, African aunties, black aunties, on their way home, coming back from their shifts, waiting at bus stops, things like that. And even he said, "Right, what is this?" I mean, listen, this is early consciousness, yeah? A lot of wit liberals, they want to be like this, But this is real talk. This is when we was younger. And he's saying, What's all this about? Why? What? Looked at me like, what's going on? Why are these, saying the same thing? Why are these black people this time in the morning coming out, doing this kind of work? Da 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 da. I remember this clearly. Yeah, the red Peugeot 305 back in the day, the sports one. We used to drive back and used to say this, Well, it's a big thing. Because sometimes we used to drive back from Streatham. So you drive it all the way back through Streatham, past the old cinema, straight down past into Brixton, London Bridge. And it's a constant theme. You'll see it. You can't avoid it. Okay? Black aunties from back in the day. And it's still the same now. So explain that to me. Black aunties back in the day, on the high road, coming back from their early morning shifts. Okay, that's what they're doing. Why is that? Why can't it be blonde? I guess blonde young girls, or blonde aunties, or middle class aunties, or young white aunties, whatever it is, or Asian aunties, or whatever it is, as a trend, doing that kind of thing in the early hours. Why? No? Why isn't it white middle class women like Penelope? Why is it Penelope in the early morning, waiting in the cold, shivering in the early mornings, waiting for that night bus to get home? Answer me that. I remember there was an article in the Metro a little while back, and it was like they're talking about something similar, like why aren't there any why haven't black people moved on into the corporate field? And someone said, someone got in trouble actually. They said, oh, well, it's because they do this kind of work, meaning cleaning and that kind of stuff. And they're talking to Liverpool Street. I'll try and find the article and put it in here. But then the whole comments came against this person. But I'm like, hold on a minute. That person just made an observation. They don't have the knowledge and insight to go deeper than that. They don't have the knowledge and observation to maybe go deeper than that and say maybe it is a race issue. They don't have that awareness. They're just going by what they're seeing. So I come back again and close on this. Why is it that, like Shells, why is it that when we sit on the train, all we see is black people cleaning, black people handing out the tissues in nightclubs, toiletries, which is the case? Why is that? Now, I've got my own little idea of what the answer may be. This can be your homework for the weekend. I'm going to say, give you a little hint to what my answer is, that maybe, just maybe, it's a case of maybe post-colonial stereotypes, I guess, which is actually an academic observation. So don't come at me saying I'm saying anything racist because I've observed something that could be seen as racist. Don't be silly now. Okay? Maybe, the blonde, pretty girl is desirable due to European standards. The auntie is doing the mammy role, further homework if you want. Could be, study of mammy stereotypes if you want. Maybe it's that. I don't know. Because, hey, I could be wrong. That was all those years ago. That was all those centuries ago. We now live in a modern world, modern technology in 2026, so I could be wrong. But anyway, let me wrap this one up. Massive big up and shout out to the very intelligent and inquisitive IAmShells. Thank you for that, and brilliant video, by the way. And it is what it is. Later.